Hello and welcome to Irresistible You Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. My name is Karen Seltz. I'm your host. And tonight we're going to talk about what's the deal with emotions. Oh, I just sounded like Seinfeld well, in my mind. Probably nothing like that. So I want to start with a story. And I did post a video about this. So I apologize if you heard it and I'm repeating myself. But last week I missed my show because I was just getting back from Chicago. I moved my firstborn, my oldest daughter, to Chicago. She started there at University of Chicago this week. So her move-in date was last Tuesday. And I left on Thursday. And leading up to that, everyone's like, how are you doing? Are you nervous? Are you sad? Are you whatever? And I'm like, actually, I'm just so proud of her right now. I'm like feeling really good about myself as a parent, as a mother, that I raised this young lady who she got a full 4-year scholarship to the University of Chicago, which is a really good school. Some professors say it's better than Harvard. So I'm like, wow, pretty dang good. Like super impressive. And it is, I thought it was 2,000 miles away, but it's closer to 1,500. So it's across the country, though. It's a pretty long ways from Phoenix, from where we live, where she used to live. So as I was driving the rental car back to the rental car place to the airport, I'm like, keep it together, keep it together. And this sadness was just like, it was rising up. And I'm like, I don't know the roads. I don't know this car. I gotta hold it together, at least for a little while. So the second I sat down in that rental car shuttle, I just like, whoa. I mean, everything. I mean, I was just a disaster. I did not stop crying. And then I got up to the baggage counter and the lady's like, oh, leaving us? You're mad at us? And I'm like, ah. I just lost it again. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. So I told her it was happening. Another couple at the gate about to board the plane. I start losing it again, get on the plane, losing it. So Saturday morning, this is 2 days later, I'm in hot yoga class. And the first half of the class, we do standing poses. The second half, it's all lying down. So between poses, there's a 20-minute rest. 20-minute, I wish we'd be there all day. 20-second savasana, 20 seconds. Let me rephrase that. So during that 20 seconds, this is a time that I've done this so many times when I'm processing something difficult or disturbing. I'll just let myself cry. And we're already all boiling hot. We're red. We're already wet. So nobody can see my face. It probably doesn't look any different, except the instructor could probably see my chest going, and shaking, but who cares, right? So I allowed myself to feel these feelings of sadness. And once that processed through I mean, I was crying pretty hard. I was crying through the poses. Usually I'm like, I could stop during the pose and then resume during the break. This time I was just like, I did the poses crying and, I didn't care. So once there was a break and I wasn't crying as much, I thought to myself, okay, knowing what I know with the work that I do, knowing what I know about the subconscious mind, the purpose of a disturbing emotion is the subconscious mind wants me to take an action. Now, since the subconscious mind only thinks in the present tense, it thinks that there's something happening right now that it needs to stop in order to protect my survival or the survival of my offspring in this case. So I'm like, okay, what does my mind want me to do? And then it occurs to me, my mind wanted me to not leave her there on Tuesday or whenever I left, right? She moved in on Tuesday night because then it was telling me, which is, I'll go over this in a second, that I couldn't protect her when I'm so far away. So is it possible for me to not have left her there 5 days prior? Nope, it's not possible, right? And could I go back, fly back, and drag her out of college and bring her home to Phoenix with me? Nope, she's 18, she's an adult. Nor would I, of course. But is it even possible? No, of course not. For so many reasons, doesn't matter. So once I got that, there's nothing for me to do. It's already happened. Then I was able to say, oh, okay, it's okay to experience some sadness. But the fear part was the part that was surprising to me. I'm like, I didn't realize it was fear under there, fear of like something happening to her. So knowing that, I was able to process it and really lean into my spiritual practice of trusting that she is on her divine path and that everything that is happening for her. Like it's all for her, no matter what happens. It's perfect. So all of that happened. And then it occurred to me a little later. I'm like, this whole idea of protecting her, she was rarely home. She worked two jobs. She went out with her friends. She used to go downtown Phoenix all the time. Could I protect her there if I was at home? Like, no. What a ridiculous concept. She's 18 years old. So the purpose of an emotion is your mind is trying to get you to take an action, usually a disturbing emotion. Let me back up. The purpose of a disturbing emotion is your mind wants you to take an action to not get hurt sometime in the past. Does that all make sense? Yes. Okay. So is there anything you can do to not get hurt anytime in the past? Well, no. So what I do with clients is I deliver the good news to their subconscious minds that those events are over with. There's nothing for it to do, nothing. So it can just chill. It can be like, oh, no matter what I do, I can rob a bank, I can smoke 5 packs of cigarettes a day, I can drink a fifth of whiskey. I'm not going to die or get hurt 30 years ago. Like it's impossible, right? I'm not going to die. That's the main thing. I'm not going to die 30 years ago. So, and then I had this beautiful conversation with this woman who's going to be on my show in a couple of weeks. So that'll be exciting. And we were talking about all the work that I do. And there was a woman, one of her clients, this woman, her name is Patsy. She's released over 100 pounds. Can't remember how many years ago, like 20 or 30 years ago, kept it off. So now she owns a medical weight loss clinic. And one of her clients came in who was in so much pain. And so I started talking to her about pain and how the mind processes it. It's really fascinating. So pain, again, is a signal to try to get you to do something. It wants you to take an action. But here's the kicker. The pain is saying, don't die. Whenever something traumatic happened to you, where you almost died or you witnessed something super disturbing, it could be anything. You might not have almost died. You might have seen something else die. Like it could have been an animal, it could have been someone else, even like an ill parent or grandparent. Your mind might be producing pain to get you to not see that or to not die or to not get hurt sometime in the past. And once it realizes that that event is over with, it usually, once we do work, it will stop sending those signals of producing pain and it just goes away. It's like a miracle. And once it realizes that there's no purpose to cause you pain, it stops, because your body doesn't want you to be in pain. It also doesn't not want you to be in pain. It doesn't really care. Your mind, not your body. Your mind wants you to survive. That's the prime directive. So as long as you're surviving, it's cool. It's chill. As long as nothing triggers you, like something that you've experienced in the past, your mind's like, okay, cool. I'll digest my food. I'll sleep through the night. I will be compassionate. I'll be funny. I'll have access to my humor, my sex drive, like whatever it is that is all shutting off if you're in a stress response, right? Like you're not going to say, oh my gosh, there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing me. I think I'm going to make a joke. Hey, tiger, like you just would never do that, right? It just makes no sense. So that is the purpose of an emotion. So what do you do with this? What do you do with it? There's a big theory, like feel it to heal it. And in my story, right, I allowed myself to cry. I rarely stuff an emotion unless I'm driving, right? And I gotta have all my senses. Then I'm like, okay, I gotta pay attention. I put it on pause for a moment. So depending on what it is, what if it's rage? Is it okay to express it? Do you think if an abusive man expresses his rage, then he's felt it and he's healed it? Okay, oh, so glad I got that off my chest. I feel so much better. I'm all done with that. I'm good. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. So why do we think like crying does that? Well, sometimes it does, right? So here's the thing, like if you're resisting an emotion, even if it is anger, especially if you're a woman, You get to allow it safe passage. Here's how you do it in some ways. This is what I've found to be supportive for myself and for my clients is find a private space. So it could be your car, it could be going out into the woods. Okay. So if you're at home and you have neighbors, you might want to get a pillow. Sometimes you would feel good to express your voice, like to scream. Screaming into a pillow, it doesn't have that cathartic, like you can't hear yourself scream, which sometimes feels really good if you've been holding it in for a long time. But I would say express it for a little bit. Also, there's things like rage dancing, which is absolutely phenomenal. Like, like you might have a pillow and you might be like punching the pillow, bam, bam, and listening to heavy metal or like stomping your feet. Good thing I decided to stand up for this episode. Another way of releasing anger is to shake. So if you're shaking your body, you could shake your legs, and then you get good vibrato. Shake your body, shake your head, shake your booty, shake it all. But moving the body is really good. If you do not express the anger, that's okay. Because anger, once you really get a hold of it and understand, oh, I'm feeling angry, sometimes all you need to do is identify that you're feeling angry. Like in my case, anger was not an emotion that was okay for me to express growing up. So I pushed it down. When I felt angry, immediately I would start crying, like silent tears, but I would cry. And I'd be like inside, I'd be so mad, but it felt like sadness, which was super confusing. So if someone would be like, what are you feeling? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I'm feeling mad, but why am I crying? Well, because if I was angry and yelling, I probably would have gotten hit. And that was not desirable to me. So crying was a little easier. At least something got expressed. So anger, a primitive emotion, right? It is a response, a physiological, emotional response to a perceived threat. When we feel anger, here's what happens to our bodies physiologically. So, number one, the prefrontal cortex, the part that accesses your logic, your choices, your compassion, your humor, all those things we talked about earlier, it shuts off completely. What you have access to is your primitive mind. Your jaw gets very, very strong. So you can bite someone really hard. You ever feel like, oh, so mad. I'm so mad. And like you're biting, you're like gritting your teeth. Your arms, of course, get strong so you can punch someone. Your brain gets dumb because it shuts off. So you're this dumb lummox who has a really strong jaw and some strong arms. So you might be like clenched. Think about that. Your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, your back, all will get tense. So you actually have extra strength in your body that most likely, if you are like somewhere on the normal spectrum, you're not going to express that. You're not going to bite anyone. You're not going to punch anyone, right? So all that kind of stays in your physiology and it produces corresponding emotions. So the emotion of anger produces this physiological effect. This physiological effect produces more anger and it produces thoughts that are going to feed that loop. Like, oh, you know what else? Yeah, you know what else? Like, remember that time in third grade? Like, you could just start going in this loop and it wreaks havoc on your nervous system, on your entire physiology. When that happens, your body cannot go into rest and repair. We are the only organism, the only animal, right, that has the ability to think about something and get angry. Really, like no lion is thinking, oh, I'm really mad at that zebra. I'm going to bite it. Like, no, it's like, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat. I'm not hungry. I'm not going to bite it. I'm not going to chase it. Right. So that's anger. Fear, a physiolocal and emotional response to a perceived threat, right? Like we feel like our life is in danger. So what happens when we are afraid? Well, we get extra strength in our legs so we can run really fast for a short distance. We can sprint to escape a predator. Terrible for running marathons, absolutely terrible. Again, brain gets dumb. Your visual field opens so you can see like options to escape, usually. The other option is you might go into a freeze response. And Man, I used to have this happen to me all the time. Like if in a relationship I was arguing with my partner, my mind would completely shut off. I couldn't speak. It was just like I would be like completely silent, no thoughts that I was aware of. I'm like, except like, why can't I form a cohesive thought? Why is my mouth not working? Like I would have like occasional thoughts like that, but nothing. So the freeze response is really designed to help you hide from a predator because many animals of prey detect motion, they detect movement. So the second you move, they're like, oh, I gotcha. Like they're doop, and then they get you. So the freeze response is so primitive, it's not super useful as humans. Well, of course, none of these are, right? You'd much rather have access to your logic and to options, right? You don't have the ability to make decisions when you're in a stress response. So though the purpose of those emotions is to keep you alive and safe from predators, right? You either, you assess like, okay, can I fight this one or do I run away? Depends how big they are, right? Now, the problem with us is our subconscious mind only thinks in the present tense. So the moment you get triggered, your subconscious mind thinks something that was very disturbing at one point in your life is happening right now. So it thinks it's either about to happen, it's happening, or it just happened. Either way is preparing you to fight or to run or hide. Now, in what circumstance, that you faced in the last 5 or 10 years is that useful? Other than, I don't know, maybe somebody was chasing you at some sporting event and, they you made them mad for some, who knows? I don't know. I had older brothers. It was a very good, good skill for me to have to run fast. I was very good at it, super fast, always outrunning the predators. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's never useful, but as adults, your boss calls you into her office. What are you going to do? Like bite her? Like, probably not. You would not have a job for long, or would you be able to get another one? Right? We just don't do that. So all that chemistry, all that stuff stays in our bodies and it produces a lot of pain and discomfort and also the mind stuff where we ruminate on thoughts and data. This is the big thing. Data gets stuck in the mind. So all of these events that you've gone through at some point in your life that were bumps, bruises, they were difficult, they were traumatic. When you think about them, you feel some type of emotion: sadness, regret, shame, guilt, anger, disgust, disappointment. Those have not been fully processed. And your mind thinks they're still happening every time you think about them. That's why you can access those emotions so easily. And that's why you can remember so many details about those things, because they also get stored in a completely different place in the mind, in a completely different format. So it's like they get stored in high definition so you can recall every single detail, which then is designed to further ensure your survival should you come across anything like that again in the future. Does that make sense? Yes. I love my business coach is like, does that make sense or does that make sense? I love that. That's a great option, or two great options. So what I do in rapid resolution therapy is I take those memories or that stuck data and we process them through. We get the good news to the unconscious mind that these events are over with. There's nothing for it to do. You've already survived it. And once it gets that, it's like, oh, okay. And then it puts them into long-term storage along with, hey, what'd you have for dinner last Tuesday night? Which I pick a random night, a boring night. So you have to really think about it. So there's nothing that happens. You don't get, last Tuesday I had lasagna. Like, no, or unless you burn the house down or it was made out of something terrible, right? So, I'm talking fast tonight. So hopefully all of this is making sense. And once you have those memories reclassified or restored, the data is not stuck where it's not supposed to be. It's put into long-term storage. You can then digest your food, stop producing cortisol, stop self-sabotaging. People call it that. really you're just tripping over data. And another thing is like the more you do something over and over and over, that creates safety in the mind. So it thinks, oh, this is what we do. We've survived thus far doing this thing, no matter if it's destructive. It could be cocaine or heroin. As long as it hasn't killed you yet, your mind is like, I'm safe. As long as I do heroin, I'm safe because I've done it thus far, and it hasn't killed me. So if I stop, I could die, which you could physiologically, right? But it's created this thing like if you do something different than that, it could lead to death because you haven't done it yet. So how do you know it won't kill you? So I've used the example of somebody who's in an abusive relationship. Why do they stay? Because it hasn't killed them yet. And if they leave, their mind is like, you could die. You don't know. The unknown is very scary. So I was talking with my buddy John on our podcast this week about that. And, he was talking about these states of really reaching into the unknown and getting into these whole new levels. And that somebody he follows, I'm not going to name names, said you could get into this state of fearlessness. And I'm like, physiologically, I don't see how that's possible because our mind is designed to seek the familiar because it is designed to keep you safe and alive. That's all it cares about. It doesn't care if you're embarrassed. It really doesn't. It cares if you're dead. So that's it. So anytime we do anything outside of our comfort zone, we are going to experience fear. The moment you think like, oh, I got this, I did this thing before, you're kind of screwed because the mind is like, you've never done this. If you do that, you could die. And it throws all these reasons and logic at you. And they seem so reasonable in the midst of everything. So a lot of times we believe it and then we don't do the thing. So expect that you're going to experience fear if you're doing anything outside of your comfort zone. Just expect it. It's normal. And normalize the feeling of fear. Like, okay, I'm going to feel some nerves. That's okay. I'm alive. I know I'm alive. I'm feeling that, right? Like figure out how to play with it. Like, okay, woo. And fear and excitement, they're kind of really similar, right? They're very similar. So experience the excitement, experience the fear, knowing that whatever's on the other side of that is something that you want. And how does a person who is who you want to be, how would they handle this? And then if you start to step into that role, like, okay, they, I'm sure, have taken many, many scary steps and they continue to grow and expand. And every new level is scary because we've never done it before. The subconscious mind is going to come in and say, you've never done that before. Don't do it. You're going to die. It's dangerous. They're going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. Had to do it. So if you expect it and then you celebrate like the fact that you did it, regardless of the results, the fact that you did it, celebrate like, yes, I exercised courage today. I did the thing scared. I was scared. I did it anyway. That's how you build that muscle. And then when you feel the fear, you're like, oh yeah, hello, my friend. Like it becomes your friend because you're so used to acting anyway. Because the only time fear wins is if you do what it says. And it's going to say, go hide, go watch TV, go eat that cake, go shoot the heroin, whatever it is. But the only time it wins is if you listen. Whereas if you're directed by your vision, you're like, I really want to do this thing. I want to be this person. I want to get here. What do I get to do in order to get there? These scary things. And very few people are doing them. So you have an advantage. So learn to play with everything and it will serve you. And speaking of serving you, I trust that this episode served you. I'm so excited that you are watching. I'm honored. Thank you so much. And if you have any of that stuck data, you'd like some support processing so that you can live like this bold life that you're meant to live, so you can serve, so you can use your voice, so you can love people and encourage people, whatever it is you're here to do, please, please, please reach out. Let's chat about doing a rapid resolution therapy session or 2 or 3, depending on what's going on for you. and let's get that shifted for you so you could show up. Thank you for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. Again, my name is Karen Seltz. Thank you. Love you so much.